He has 3 adult children, and I have 1. I moved to Indiana to be with him. My son still lives in Georgia. All of his girls are within 20 minutes from our house. All kids are in their 30s. His oldest daughter had a habit of borrowing money from her first week here. I trained him bad, and this didn't work. A month. They offered to try, or did me calling and asking back on paydays. Pay it back. Borrowing money all the time. I said, look, if you don't want to tell her no, I will. I will be nice, but I will let her know that it has to be paid back. So he told her he didn't have the money, so to check with me. I simply told her that we don't have the money in our joint account, but I have it in a GA account, but it will have to be paid back this time. Well, she went off, started telling me that it is what parents are supposed to do to help their children out. I just let her rant, never saying anything, but thinking that, girl, you are not my child, and at 35, you shouldn't be calling daddy every week. When she finally stopped, I said, well, do you want the money? And she said no, she would get it somewhere else, and hung up. Well, from that day forward, she hated me. She would be rude and short and petty about everything. Like when my son came to visit for 4 days, she wanted to start trouble over the fact that I didn't have a big family dinner so everyone could get to know each other. I explained, I get 4 days a year with my son. I'm not going to cook dinner for 6 extra adults and 15 grandchildren when I can be spending those 4 days with my son. My son likes to visit his family when he is in town. Of course, I was still the bad guy. Then she started turning on one of her sisters against me also, and her husband that worked with me started talking behind my back at work. And it all came to a head one day at my house. My son was coming to town, so to try and pacify everyone, we had a cookout at the house with all my family, sisters, cousins, aunts, uncles. This way my son could have the visits with his family, and they could come over to get to know him. Of course, that made them mad too, because they didn't know a lot of these people. They waited till everyone was gone, but my son, who was staying with me, they started a big fight. I hugged this daughter goodbye, and she started yelling, "Don't you ever touch me again." Then one sister started to jump me, and the third sister jumped in, telling them that they were being stupid. I've never done anything to them. The son-in-law I worked with defended me also. It was a mess. I never hit anyone, nor did any of my family. We just went to the garage and locked the door. My husband told his girls to leave and not come back. Well, now the one that started it all is getting a divorce. And her husband no longer works with me, but she is starting to try and contact her dad. Her husband sent me a big apology when they separated about the way he treated me at work. After all I did was to help him succeed. When he left here, he was making 80 grand a year. Before he came here, he was lucky if he made 25 grand a year. She or her sister have never apologized to me. They have told everyone in town I was sleeping with my boss, which is a lie. What really makes me mad is I was married to my husband for 23 years and was never unfaithful. Between the two girls, they have 8 kids by 7 different men, and they have the nerve to call me a whore. Anyway, I'm just reading it just like it is. Anyway, I know my husband loves his kids. We all love our kids, but I never want to see them again. Another thing is my husband had to retire due to illness. He has very little income, and I pay the bills at the house, all of them. He might help by buying groceries from some small side jobs he does, but I pay 90% of the bills. I feel like since she is getting divorced, I assume the daughter is getting divorced, wants daddy back to help her. To me, I feel if he has any money, it should go to our household bills. What should I do about her trying to worm her way back into my life? How do I come to peace with this, or how do I tell her she will not be borrowing money from me or him? Help me come to peace with this. It is driving me nuts. I have tried to turn it over to God, but I know my husband is a softie and will not stand up to her. I am afraid it will start causing problems in my relationship because he doesn't want to be the bad guy. Well, I thought about this carefully, and I kind of wrote down a few things, because even though this is her story, but this represents probably quite a few people. And it's important in a situation like this that the father speaks up. That's always important. That's really part of a wife feeling protected. And also too, now I know this is difficult for this wife, she has to forgive. You don't forgive because of them, you need to forgive for yourself. And I know that's not easy, but God will help you to forgive the situation. Okay? Now, with that said, let me say this. And when I was thinking about this, I did a teaching probably about 10 years ago, I think, with marriage and the family and finances with the family. Now, one of the things in what she's saying, and I kind of thought about this a lot, she's in her mid-50s and he's in the late 50s. So I can understand that generational thinking, you know, because there's a certain mindset that each generation has, you know. So I understand their way of thinking. But also, let me come out and say this. The money issue can ruin relationships like nothing else. Yep. You would think that infidelity or adultery is the #1 thing that can ruin a marriage. It's not. It's money. Yep. Yep. You know. So money, that thing, it can ruin relationships. And then also, most people, they really don't know the biblical response when it comes to loaning money out. Now, first of all, as a good steward, you don't have to turn to it, but Scriptures, Proverbs 27 and 23, talks about we're to know the state of our herds, or to know the state of your flocks. In other words, we can use this as a good steward, we should always know the condition of our finances. Now, in order to loan something out, you have to have it. Now, I'm going to be very specific with that, because like I say, this is a story we're reading with this individual, but this is a lesson that we can all learn. Now, what do I mean? Before you loan it, you have to have it. In other words, you don't have it if what you have has to cover your expenses. Proverbs 22, 26, and 27 says, don't promise to pay someone else's debt. If you cannot pay, you will lose everything you have. So why should you lose the bed you sleep on? Now, that particular passage really deals specifically with co-signing for somebody. In other words, if you can't cover it, you don't have it. Now, I'm staying with the Bible with this. Now, I understand, you know, and I'm going to get to, you know, where a lot of people don't know. So if you don't cover it, you don't have it. So if I don't have it to give to you, I don't have it to loan to you. Now I'm sticking with the Bible. You see, if you loan it out, and then if the person can't pay you back, then you're in trouble. So if you don't have it to give, you don't have it to loan. That is a biblical principle. And it doesn't matter if it's your kid, your relative, or whoever. Those are biblical stewardship principles when it comes to giving out or loaning money.
Okay, Pastor, I think what you're really saying is that if I have a bill by Friday and you ask me for the money by Monday, and I give you the money Monday, and you say I pay you back Friday, and then when the bill is due, I don't have the money to pay my bill because you didn't give me the money that I loaned you out. So that's why you don't have money to give out. If you know that your bill is coming up, and you gave them they said, well, last week or 2 weeks ago, they said they're going to pay you back, and then they didn't pay you back, then I'm stuck. Well,
let me say this too. You should never give, it's really, and I wish I could find that I did a whole series on teachings, because this is all biblical. I should not be taking my bill money, because I owe that, to pay yours. That's dishonest. Because because you know, we have a contract with utilities, with our rent, our mortgage. They promise to give you light, you promise to pay. They promise to give you a place to stay, you promise to pay. So that's a violation if I'm going to take the money that I owe someone else to give to you. Now, in the same token, this goes into what I'm saying. If you don't have it to actually give to them, then you don't have it to loan to them. That's why it's so important to have more than enough. Because then even if I say I loan it to you, for whatever reason you don't pay me back or can't pay me back at that time, I'm not in a jam. So if I really don't have it to give to you, I don't have it to loan to you.
So in other words, if you ask me for $500, if I don't have $500 to give to you, don't think about it no more.
If I don't have to actually give it to you, I don't have it to loan it to you.
Because
that's even like I said, even with co-signing. People do co-signing, but biblically, you should not co-sign something unless you can cover it. And it doesn't matter the person, you trust them and all of that. That's a biblical violation.
Because it ruins friendships. It ruins family members.
Absolutely.
I mean,
we say it ruins marriages.
Cut you for $1. They will cut you. In other words, you know, and then it breaks up relationships. Then, you know, if you get offended, because Lord knows if I loan you $800 and then you come walking up in here with a fur coat, oh, we got a problem.
Sure.
Because you came here working with, and you forgot my $500 that I gave you, yeah. Or you come with a car or anything you come in with anything, because now I look at you as you ain't got no money, but then you walking in here with bags. Yeah. Yeah. See, that's even bad integrity too. You know, if someone loans you something, whether it's a bank or an individual, you pay it back. Mm-hmm. If for whatever reason, if you don't, you talk to them. People claim they have amnesia when it comes to money. And nobody has amnesia when it comes to money. Everybody knows.
You don't forget who you owe.
Some people say they forget.
No, you don't.
They say I forgot.
You didn't forget to ask. If you didn't forget to get the loan.
When did I get that money from you?
You don't know?
No, I don't know. Because
how can one forget a loan when you didn't forget to ask?
People have amnesia.
I know they play mental games with themselves. You don't forget. It's like bills. We duck calls all day long. We didn't forget. We didn't forget.
But it's a true thing because
now we can take advantage of family people, or we could take advantage of think, well, because they have it, they really don't need it. That's not the issue.
That's true.
If it was a loan, that's your word. You said it. You said, can I borrow? So your stewardship says then I need to pay it back. It's no different than borrowing from a bank. Now, and I understand this is a family thing. Now, part of this, another issue is, you have some, and not all, I'm saying not all, some adult children who feel they're entitled. You know, like I say, I would answer this a little bit different if this was a different generation, but I understand where they're at in their generation, because we're part of that generation. There's a certain thinking when you're in your mid-50s, 60s because of the previous generation. So I understand that, you know. So you have some adult children, not all, who think they feel they're entitled. And as a parent, you have to be careful to not even spoil your adult children. Now, we all know the scripture, spare the rod, spoil the child, which Proverbs 13:24, it really says, he that spareth the rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chastens him or disciplines him. So now sometimes you have to be careful, even with adult children, to not spoil them that way. And sometimes some adult children need financial discipline, just like we would when we are raising a small child. See, because you never want to enable or hinder someone from growing up or being responsible.
Because one thing about adult kids, for some reason, they think their parents will have nothing to do with their money. They really do. They like, you know, you ain't got nothing to do. You at home.
Yeah.
You know, you know.
Well, you're saying money, and this is about this. This goes with anything, with time.
Yeah. Think your life is just over because y'all are grown.
Yeah.
And think, well, you don't need nothing. You know, and that is such a selfish.
It is selfish. It is selfish.
Because you thinking that, like, I owe you. Now, I did raise you.
Mm-hmm.
That was my responsibility, raising you to learn how to deal with society. That
Yeah.
you won't be a person that's robbing and stealing and taking other people's stuff. That you learn how to handle your own business.
Sure.
But then when you decide to spend all your money, then you come home to me and say, well, Mom, I need some money. I'm like, what do you do with your money? Yeah.
See, this is a serious issue, because I remember some years ago I was counseling a married couple. Let me say this, they don't go here. This is some years ago, a married couple, and usually when I do that, that money should be dealt with, because especially when you have older people, they could have two different concepts about money. And one of the people I was counseling, and I gave an example, because this person is used to always helping their family, whether it's their sisters, brothers, or whatever, giving them money, helping them. And I said, well, that's good and fine now, but you're about to get married. And then the individual also knew that their siblings would take advantage. And I said, so you trying to say that if when you get married and your spouse say, no, stop loaning that money to them because they taking advantage of you, what are you going to do? And the individual said, they don't know. They still may do it. See, this is a real issue here. Now, in this case, I don't have the full story, obviously, and I'm not saying you don't help your children. That's not what we're saying. You know, there's a difference in helping and enabling. You know, just like Scripture, we're to take care of the poor. Everybody who we see is not the poor. The poor is actually one who has no ability or no resources, not one who chooses to not. So we have to understand that. So I'm not advocating not helping, and there's a difference. Help is when one has gone as far as they can go and they need some assistance. Help is not one who refuses to do anything. You know. So, and it's probably started back growing up for whatever reason. I don't know, sometimes I've seen this happen where parents have guilt on them because maybe they didn't do certain things when children were growing up then. Because I've even seen adult children put guilt on their parents. Yeah. That you was not there for me when I was a teenager, now you owe me this big party now. Mm-hmm. So maybe that could be some of it too.
But then the thing about, even we talking about even stepkids get mad at the woman from taking their mother's place. And then that means they think that when I'm coming to my father, I'm coming to my daddy. I'm not coming to you. I'm coming to that's my daddy. In other words, we don't look at you. We looking at, this is my daddy. This is my daddy, and me and my daddy have a relationship. We know each other, and he take care of me, and blah blah. You ain't nothing but an outsider.
Yeah.
And most kids look at it like the other woman. The woman that he married is an outsider.
Sure.
Like our relationship between me and you. And it got nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
You know, but it does because he's married to her.
Yeah, and this is why I stated earlier, the father really should, he's the one that's got to say something. You know, and that's very, very important. Where he's got to tell these adult children, especially now, the situation where he's barely working and then the wife is paying 90% of everything, so that load has more or less been now put on her. So of course she ain't loaning no money out. You know, so like I say, it's a tough situation, but the key thing is don't get bitter, and I know it's a challenge, and ask God to help you, to strengthen you and give you peace. You're not wrong for saying no. Okay, don't let anyone make you feel guilty, because you're doing the right thing, especially if you don't have it, and especially if you feel that someone, and it can be children, taking advantage. You know, but don't get bitter, and don't get into, you've got to forgive, and you may have to forgive by faith and build it up and all of that, but that doesn't mean you have to succumb and surrender to all of this.
Most importantly, don't let this situation deter you and your husband.
Absolutely.
Don't let this situation, don't let a daughter that's not living with y'all, you be arguing about me and about us a daughter. We should not let our daughters or our kids or anybody separate us from what we believe in. Sure. And they go home and do their own stuff. Me and you sit here arguing about the kids.
Yeah. So hopefully that helps. If you are anywhere near Chicago, you can come and see us, but since you're out of state, hopefully you're in a church, you and your husband get some good counseling and all of that, and but don't feel bad about it, and as she said, don't allow this situation to break up your relationship, especially if your husband had to retire due to illness, because that can get to a person. You protect your husband. Yeah. You don't want a premature death. At only 55, that's very young.
Sometimes the illness is caused by stress.
Absolutely.
And he stressed out on his daughters and all this stuff, and then he wound up getting sick. And then when Lord forbid, if he passed away, then what nobody gonna be around. Sure. You know, the daughters ain't gonna be with me, the son, you know, you by yourself. And so we don't want that premature death.
Absolutely. So hopefully that does help concerning that. Like I say, that this is an issue with them, but that affects a lot of people. Yeah. And I see that with family members and money and different things like that. Yeah,
you know, when we know a started just passed away based on unforgiveness, or he felt that he was responsible for his son.
Yeah.
And he was, you know, he felt so bad that he just let that thing get to him.
Sure.
And you know, people don't know that grieving is a disease.
Yeah.
And you cannot be grieving over people.
Right.
And that is disease. That's a curse.
It really is.
And you be grieving on people that left you and walked away from you, or people that have prematurely died and stuff. You do not sit up here continue to let your mind keep on thinking what you coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Yeah.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda. It's over with.
Yeah.
Just like we cannot bring back yesterday. You can't bring back yesterday.
Yeah.
You can't. You cannot grieve somebody that's dead.
Yeah.
Because you cannot communicate to them. And so when all this grieving you doing and stuff, you can't say I'm sorry still to them, because it's over with now. Yeah. And people be sitting up there, I wish I did that way, and you wind up messed up in the head.
Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely. So hopefully, like I said, hopefully that helps. But it is really it's the stewardship thing, and I've learned that years ago, where I've had family people get mad at me. They say, well, I know you got it. You know, say, well, can't you loan me $500? I know you got $10,000. That may be true. But I got $9,587 worth of bills. You know, or I used to joke with some family members, say, hey, can you loan me 500? 500? I say, loan me 50,000. You talking about 500?
You be amazed when people know you got money, and I'm serious. And,
yeah.
And
well, money have more responsibility too.
I learned it from Oprah when people was getting mad at her. You know, it took her a while to get there. When she started climbing, everybody named Mama started coming at her, and she's like, "Oh my God," you know. And it does stop communication with family because they feel that they are entitled to your money, even though you earned it. And the funny thing, I told the pastor one day that I'm going to do a play. Because I'm amazed that people that started with you, they seen you walk, they seen you talk, they seen that you were struggling. Then you started coming up in life. Now they was there when you were struggling. And then they saw you as you coming up. And it's amazing to me how they get this attitude when you start rising up. You'd rather me stay down, rather me stay broke, rather me, and when, I mean, you was there when I was broke. You was there when I was sick. You was there, and then when I started getting a little level or whatever stuff, then you got an attitude like, you ain't nothing. I'm amazed, and I told the pastor, I want to do a play, because it just amazed me how people do not celebrate you coming out.
Yeah.
They do not celebrate. They don't be happy for you. They don't celebrate you and say, "Oh my God, I'm so glad you got your house. I'm so glad you got your car." But they rather me keep on walking. They rather me still look like I'm broke. I'm amazed at that. Yeah. And it be relative.
Sure. See, because it's easy. You saying relatives, family. You have this in the body of Christ. It's easy when we both in faith for something, but then when the manifestation comes for one, then the other, you know.
It's amazing that we both go to church.
Sure.
And we go to church and we believe in God for different things, and I got mine.
Yeah.
But you don't believe I got mine through God's way.
Wow.
You think somebody did it for me.
Well, sure,
you don't believe God can do something for somebody. And I'm thinking to myself, are you reading the same Bible? Are you going to the same, believing in the same God? And I'm amazed. And I'm looking at people, and I'm like, oh my God, you are so silly.
No, the thing is when stuff like that happens, people really didn't believe. See, we can pretend like we believe, because deep down we really don't believe it's going to happen.
Oh no, you don't believe that God's going to do it.
Well, same thing. You really don't believe.
Have a problem. They don't think that you deserve for God to do it for you.
Well, I think I guess a play is really in you, because we'll see about all of that.
I'm like,
okay, let's open up. We spent about 30 minutes or so on that. Let's open up for Q&A. It can be about anything, and maybe we'll do something before we go off the air. Since next week is Valentine's Day, huh?
Oh, yeah.
So piggyback on the question about lending people money. So let's say you lend someone money, a friend, and they never communicate with you to pay it back. It's been years, so you looked at it, hey, it's a loss. Would it be wrong to bring it back up after you see that, okay, you see them different things, like she said, they got cars and they went back purses, but you never said nothing to them because you feel you didn't have to, but they, like you said, they know they owe you, but they don't communicate with you. So I guess my question was, if you take it for a loss after so long, is that wrong, or should you just still remind them, hey, you still owe me, no matter how many years it's been? Yeah,
that's up to you. You have all rights to. You know, when we owe bill collecting money, they ain't giving up. So there's nothing wrong if someone owes you money and they ain't say nothing, and a year later, now it's totally up to you. Now, it's the matter of if you're going to let it go, you let it go, and it doesn't matter. And that just you just kind of know where that person is, you know. And you move on, forgive them, move on. But if it's the principle with you, because some things with me sometimes is the principle. You know, and if it is with you, there's nothing wrong with say, you know, hey, dude, what happened to my $50? That's up to you. That's up to an individual. You have all rights to still ask for money that's owed to you. You know.
Even though, like you said, it's been down in years, and you just say forget.
Well, then if you say forget it. Then don't even give it a thought.
Okay.
So I understand that too. I mean, there are quite a few people still. No, I don't give it a thought. After that, forget it. It does. That's up to you. That's what I'm saying. It's not a rule one way or the other. If you forget about it, forget about it.
The key is if you forget about it, don't bring it back up and don't be bitter.
Yeah.
You know, like if you see them moving on in life and they got nice things, don't be bitter. Don't remind yourself that $50.
Yeah.
Don't, you know, just if you find, then that's fine. But don't bring it back up in your mind and say, wow, you know, I can use that $50.
But you know, but see, what would help is what I said earlier. If we do it, if we have it to give, and then for whatever reason they don't, whatever, then that helps. But see, if you've loaned somebody some money and you needed that money and you were dependent on them to give it back, and for whatever reason they didn't, then that does create more of a something. And that's where you have to be careful as a Christian, where, okay, I'm gonna let this go and forgive them and this and that. But you can forgive, remember, that don't mean you trust them. Forgiveness does not mean trust. Those are two different animals. I can forgive you. I forgive you. I ain't holding against you no more. But I ain't leaving my purse out anymore in front of you. Because trust has to be earned. You know, and then that goes with if there's the decision, if you're going to be in my world anymore. You kind of follow that? Okay.
So, about a few months ago, I got a call from one of my grandkids' mom, and she stated me question, Miss Cheryl, you need to come and get your grandson. Me being me, and I'm like, and do what with him? And so she got on a serious note, and she said because it's getting to the point that he's getting out of control, blah, blah. I said, so okay, so what happened for him to get to this point that he's out of control now? So I told her, I said, you know, I'm gonna have to pray about this. She's like, Miss Cheryl, it's just you, and you know, they already know you're not gonna play with them, you're gonna make them do whatever. So I said, I gotta pray on this. I said, because, you know, now you want me to take up on your responsibility. You done created a monster that he's 15, 16 now. Now he's out of control. Now you want me to step in as the grandmother now and make sure he go to school with that. So she said, well, how much time? I said, I don't know, let me pray about it, I'll get back with you. So I ain't think no more about it, honestly. So about a week ago, she gave me a call. Miss Shirley, hey, how's it going? I'm like, everything good, how's it going with you? So Miss Shirley, you never called me back. I said, well, what I was supposed to say? But my thing is this right here, like, and what I need to know is, as being a grandparent, and even though I tried to be in the kids' life when they were smaller, but you rejected that. Now the boy that got out of control, he's 16, didn't complete school, not in school. Now is at the point that, okay, I don't know what to do. So I know Miss Cheryl not gonna play with him. Miss Cheryl not the type of person that, okay, you can do what you want to do. So let me send him to her. So what I suggested was, okay, well, if he's 16 and he's at this out of control state, send him to job course. Send him to job course. Let them train him. Let them discipline. So I called her Monday. I said, so hey, how's Tony doing? Have you thought about what I said? She said, well, there's really nothing that you and I need to talk about no more. Because I tried to get you to help your grandchild. I said, but you tried to get me to help him at a stage that he's out of control. Now you want me to stop my life, allow him to intervene in my life, to take up of your responsibility. Right. So I want to know, was I wrong? Was I in the wrong space? Seriously, because it's really been kind of, for the last couple of days, it's really kind of like bothering me because of me knowing that what the streets is offering, knowing what he's doing in the streets. And like I said, and my reason for stop doing hair for the deceased, because I used to see, this is what I used to see. And for the last few days, this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing him out there in the street, something happening to him. And I'm beating myself up like, now, if you get him, you know you're not gonna play with him, he'll listen to you. But it's like,
okay, there's two things with that, and we ain't gonna make this complicated. First of all, you have to ask yourself, is that something you want to do or not want to do? If you want to do it, then you pursue it. If you don't, you don't. Then, no, I'm not making light of it. And then you said you prayed about it, and if you prayed about it, if you didn't get an answer one way or the other, then that kind of solves that. But on the same token, let me say this. Maybe who knows, this is not a cheap plug for Prepared Soldier School of Ministry, winter semester, because sometimes we don't know the roles. See, if you don't even know the role, and I'm not saying you, I'm talking in general. If you don't really know the role of a parent, how do you think you're going to know the role of a grandparent? See, because this almost sounds like somebody like you obligated to do something. Find me that scripture. See, it goes into what I said about this story, too, with that entitlement. And usually, and you mentioned about the money, people say, well, you ain't doing nothing else with your money. But then you know, if you're an individual where your life is purposeful and fulful and you're doing things, why would you go back? You raised your kids. You out of that line. You in another line now. If I wanted more kids, hey, we'll do Abraham and Sarah. But that's not that, no. She's shaking my head a zoom back. That ain't happening. So you're not in that line anymore. And you don't let nobody make you feel, and it's not to say that you don't have feelings for it, because I understand what you're saying to a degree. You know, now if the Lord told you to do, will tell you to do something, that's something different. But other than that, you don't let nobody make you feel good, because I've seen this happen for years, especially when you have grandparents raising their grandchildren because of the, I'm gonna be nice when I say this, because of the selfishness of adult children, and they feel like you owe them. I owed you raising you. And I'm still your parent, and I will help you and guide you. But this is your child who you chose to have. Now, I'm going to say something that's saying raw. If you didn't get raped, you chose it. You chose it. I don't care if that was not your intention. You chose it because it takes something to have a child. If I didn't want no child, I would not have did what it takes to get one. Come on, don't shoot me down.
Yeah, it's pretty rough, Pastor.
I know.
Because people, it's like, well, I didn't ask for this, and and I don't know. In Sister Cheryl's case, I don't know what the mother. But
it's a lot of people in what she's saying is kind of universal, and you and I know this. It's out there, and it's been out there for years.
And my thing is with this, and I tell people all the time, it's best to get these things taken care of when it's small.
Yeah.
When it's small, it's so easy to control. Then when it get out of hand and everybody, I don't know what to do with it. No, you should take care of it, especially, if the boy is out of hand right now. But you handle that when the child is talking back. Come on. You handle it when the child is stealing from the teacher. Because I got a relative my relative, he's stealing from the teacher. I'm like, what he's stealing from the teacher from? And you got to handle that right then and there. Like, what are you doing? And you got to handle it. But see, you can't fix something when they don't respect you.
Yeah.
That's a totally different thing. When people don't respect you, they don't care what you say. Sure. They might be calm for a second because they're in emergency form. It's the same thing our pastor talked about last Sunday, talked about how can you hear. And the truth of it is, you can't hear a sermon right unless you're in a certain kind of condition. Because if it ain't an emergency, you'll say, you know what, so-and-so should have been here. No, I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
When you're in emergency form, then you heard the pastor. Oh, I heard what the pastor said. No, but it's on the condition. Only condition that you are in that you can actually hear.
Yeah.
So, it's a horrible thing for to be in that position. It's very horrible. But You cannot, I pastor preached one time, your mercy is not my problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what this is about. Your
Yeah.
mercy is not my problem.
And then sometimes, I'm not saying this is the case, but sometimes a person, they just tired and they just want to dump it off on somebody else. You do something with them. But you don't. You got to be careful with this, where you don't feel this guilt thing. Because I trust me, I have seen this definitely the last 15 years, where you got parents, grandparents feeling guilty, and then you have adult children putting this guilt role on them. Or then you have grandparents who are feeling guilty because they wasn't a good parent, so they're going to somehow try to make it up by being a good grandparent. That's bondage. That's mental bondage. You got to break that. She just said it earlier. None of us can go back into yesteryear and change anything around. Can't do it. You know. Now, like I said, and I'm not knocking people who want to do that and they do that, and that's all good and fine. But if you don't want to, or if your life is at a different stage, and it should be, you know, every grandparent's life should be at a different stage than when they were a parent with small children. It ain't the same no more. It's kind of like an anointing. You have an anointing to raise them from birth to 21. Then that anointing shifts to something else. Then after they get grown and have their own kids, you ain't got no more anointing to be 50, 60, raising some little teenager. That anointing is gone. And without the anointing, it becomes stress, strain, and struggle. I'm preaching better than you all say.
I think you're too excited.
I'm too excited. Come on, next question. Next question.
You got 30-something years kids. 30 years old.
My youngest is 30. He just turned 31 a couple weeks ago. Praise the Lord. Ibobo Shando.
Yeah.
And I'm all right with that. We had a wonderful time. But me and Sarah can go fly now. You know. Come on.
So my question is, based off of the question that you were talking about earlier about the money situation, when is the appropriate time to discuss money situations before you get married? Should it be before you get engaged, while you or after engagement, doing marriage counseling? Should that be the first time it come up? And what would that conversation look like? What would be the appropriate thing to ask this person about their money? Should I be asking about their history with debt and things like that, how they spend their money, what their bank account look like, without being, I guess, too invasive? I don't know. Is that being too invasive?
Yeah. It depends on where a relationship is. You know, in the early stages, you don't want to be asking that, because that can come off like, well, what do you want to know? Are you trying to see if I got some so you can pull some, or are you a gold digger, or which one is it?
Let me say this, because she brought up about the engagement. When you engage,
well, that's different.
You don't give nobody your social security number. I just throw that in there. Because people, oh, he got my social security number. She got my, what you giving your social security number for?
Yeah. No one should know that until you get married. Oh, that got quiet, didn't it?
I know.
You could drop a pen on the carpet. No.
I mean, like I said to all my girls, don't be giving your guy your social security number.
And vice versa.
What's wrong with y'all?
Don't you be giving no woman who ain't your wife your social security number.
Please. You have to bring everybody here and lay hands on them. I'm going to believe y'all. That is private. That is your credit score. That is how
that's your identification.
And using and abusing. Then you up there 6 months later like, who used my credit card?
And especially now, stuff you can really get into now. No, you don't do that.
It ain't that much love in the world.
No, if it's that much love, you say I do.
That's right, Pat. How long till you get my credit card? No, my social security number. No, I'm serious, because we was married and he would not give my social security number.
Well, now let's say, don't make it seem like you ain't getting it. We married. It just, there was no reason. Now I'm being honest. Now if you're gonna make it personal, there was no reason. You didn't know my need. There was just no reason that I needed hers, or vice versa. And I think we didn't really. They probably didn't learn it. To be honest,
we didn't know it till 10 years ago.
No, about 15 years ago.
15 years ago.
Yeah, we married
That's
35
when we knew
years.
about each other's Social Security.
Yeah, because there was no reason.
We
just had no reason. Right. We had no reason to. We didn't care. We didn't care, right. But it wasn't like that was a thought. I'm not giving it to you. We could have got it. We still have Social Security cards that's in a certain place.
Even though they didn't have it those days, I didn't buy him no phone.
Well, you couldn't buy one if they didn't have one.
I know, but I wasn't going to buy him no phone. I'm just letting you know.
Well, let's put it this way. You didn't give me a dime for the payphone.
You're right. I ain't giving you a dime for the payphone. I just want to make that clear.
No, we're making jokes of, but now if you're not married, you don't do that on Social Security, because that can be dangerous. That can be dangerous, and let alone Social Security number, your bank account number.
Oh, oh my God.
Now I guess it's fine if you got -0, because nothing from nothing leaves nothing. Now if you ain't got nothing, I guess it's all right. But if you got a couple quarters, you don't do that.
You don't even give no man if y'all gonna eat out tonight. You gotta say it. And you say, here go my debit card, and then let him go use your debit. Come on. While you going out, while he getting your debit number. And what happens if when you get it back, then you find out later he took out more money than he supposed to take out because the food only cost $29, but ain't never $50 out my debit card. Come on, y'all.
Or vice versa. Let me speak up for the brothers. Brothers, don't you do it either. Giving her your debit card, and I'm gonna go pay. Let me go pay it, Charles. You go pay it. And she took 20 minutes because she was on the phone paying her bills with your card, then bring it back to you. Come on, we equal opportunists. It works both ways.
Well, I'm speaking for the women.
Well, I'm speaking for the brothers.
No. I have to make sure that my girls will not be naive.
And I got to make sure my sons don't be naive either.
Yeah. Stop that clown. Just stop it.
Come on, next question. Once again, those of you, if you have a question, fill out the information and hopefully we can answer your question online before the broadcast go on.
Okay, so quick question. So with Valentine's Day coming up next weekend, amen, saints. So how, traditionally it's the man taking out the woman for Valentine's Day. Like this is like the woman's holiday, and Sweetest Day is reverse whatever. So
that's what I want to know.
Who made the Sweetest Days for the guys and Valentine's Day for the women?
The people on the streets. I mean, but traditionally that's how it is. Like you have Sweetest Day.
But you know what?
So that's what
now this is where this is the generation gap, because when I was growing up, even in grammar school, Valentine's Day was for all of us. See, we're in a different age now. See, what she's talking about, we don't understand it. Valentine's Day was...
We understand, but we just not going to cooperate.
No, because we didn't grow up that way.
No, we understand.
We understand what?
That he day and she day.
No. Come on now. I'm not that much older than you are. Valentine's Day, when we were in school, the little box of candy was for everybody.
Well, they still do that.
I think they do that in school, but once you graduate, then it splits off.
Yeah, it never split off.
Well, in this particular question, so if Valentine's Day, in this case, I guess is for like the women, and then Sweetest Day is for the man. So how would, as a wife or a woman, fiance, whatever, tell their, let's say, husband that they want something different for Valentine's Day versus like what was usually given? So if I usually give you, we go on a weekend trip to Miami. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this year, like, no, I want to do something. I guess you could take that for Christmas or birthday, any type of like gift exchange and holiday. But how do you tell your spouse, like, I want something different, or when it's supposed to be like a surprise, I've been thinking of you, but it's like, no, I kind of want a hot air balloon ride or something like that.
You just kind of say, wow, I wonder how to be with them hot air balloons. Man, you ever thought about a hot air balloon?
No, we're not doing it.
Then I guess that's your answer then. And you're disappointed.
But the thing about I think we joke about a couple that all they do is a candy bar, and they'd be happy with it. And I told her, I will never be happy with a candy bar. I would never be happy with just something just so simple. I would never be happy with that. So I think sometimes you have to be direct.
Yeah.
You know, you can't because just like I did with him sporting like, oh, maybe we should go on a I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Right.
But if you direct, say, you know what? This year for Valentine's Day, I want this. I don't want the stuffed animals. I don't want the candy because I don't like the chocolate. I don't want you to, go out. I want this what I want. You got to be direct because other than that, to pacify it, make it go around and around, and then they can also say, I don't want to do that.
But you know what? And she's right now. Being direct, it doesn't spoil a surprise. Trust me, I will be so surprised when I wake up and say, what time is it? I've been asking for what time is it for about, good 15 years. I will be as surprised as Gomer Powell. That was my older crowd. So asking for something and didn't get it, I don't think it spoils a surprise. It's like, boy, you really did it. Sometimes it'll be even more something. You really did it.
Because my husband feels, give me what I want.
Yeah.
Don't give me what you want.
Yeah.
Give me what I want.
And I'm like that. And we have a relationship like that. You know, if I say, listen, I don't want no more socks. Don't buy me no more socks. And then if I get socks, I don't want this. Now some people be like, well, it's the thought that counts. If it's the thought, you should have thought about what I asked. Now I know this is mature talk. I don't want to hear that it's the thought that counts. If you thought about what I asked.
It's about what I can afford right now.
Well, I wouldn't ask you to get something I knew you couldn't afford. So there's nothing wrong with being direct. Sometimes that can save years and years and years. So we learned that early.
What about a woman that do not have a job and she's a stay-home mom? Is she entitled to buy her husband something when she don't have a job?
You know what? I was a kid in grammar school and bought my parents gifts for their anniversary, for their birthdays, and for their Christmases, and did it up to the day they went home.
But I don't have a job.
I'm in 3rd grade. You think I'm working at Walgreens?
I'm just saying, if I don't have a job,
you missed the point. I'm in 3rd grade. Where do I work at? I'm in 3rd grade.
Where do you get the money from?
Well, to be honest, in them days I got a dime because a carton of milk at school was 4 cents. And if I knew something was coming around, I saved. And went to Walgreens and bought my mama some perfume for about $2. I'm just saying too.
I'm just saying, if I ain't got no money.
No. See, you done just tried to squash on what I'm saying as a third. Now, if you're an adult with no job and I'm a 3rd grader can buy gifts throughout the year, what kind of adult are you? Don't you? No. You don't try? Don't acknowledge it?
What if I fish some dinner?
Well, I guess I don't get dinner every day?
No, this is a special dinner.
Okay, well, if you do something special, you are acknowledging.
Yeah, I give you a dinner.
Because there are some things that don't necessarily cost money, but then if you're thinking about it, now with any man or any woman, I don't care if there's lack going on, there's a way you can do something. You and I know that.
I'm just saying.
That's with anybody.
I'm just saying
I don't care.
Got no job.
No, you know what? Come on. A job don't mean you got money. We know folks ain't got no job and got money. So, come on.
So my question, since we're on the topic of Valentine's Day, is how do single women, or I would say more so single women, because I don't think single men may really not care, but single women deal with being single on Valentine's Day, especially when they see other people getting stuff or doing stuff or having stuff. And I'm just asking for wisdom, because some people may say it really don't matter, but in their heart they be looking, had that face the whole day, and somebody send them a bouquet of flowers and they be looking funny because they had to go home with their 2 cats and they gerbil. So what's a good way for single women to celebrate the holiday, even leading up to the holiday? Because some people get depressed seeing that the holiday is coming, or after the holiday is over with, and they like, oh, I didn't get nothing, but they second grader got 12 hearts from Betsy, you know. So
before you kind of answer this as a woman, don't think for a minute that men don't like this stuff either. See, a lot of us have been trained to suppress a lot of stuff, to act like it doesn't matter. See, don't think for a minute that men don't have emotions and feelings just like women. We have just been trained to suppress it like it's no big deal. You can tell when, I don't care if it's your brother, your husband, or uncle, somebody, just be around them and certain stuff like a movie that's really emotional. And then notice if he get out of the room, he going to wipe that tear. Or if something happens, he changes the subject because his emotions about to kind of. Or if he kind of start talking and his voice get a little. I'm letting out the secrets.
Well, the thing about this, it's singleness, period. One thing I suggest nobody do, get on Facebook. Don't get on Facebook.
If it depresses you,
yeah. Because people are so phony on Facebook.
A lot of them are.
They would act like they the happiest thing in their life or whatever and stuff, and then they bring depression on you because they say, oh, everybody's so happy, everybody's so happy, everybody's so happy. Oh, look at her, she got engaged. But she's been with the guy for 50,000 years. So she should have been engaged to him. You know, what have you and stuff. And then you look at the ring that he gave her. She bought the ring. You don't even know she bought the ring. But I'm saying that, you looking at, you got this image in your head about how it looks. So don't look at that. I suggest you don't do that.
What she mentioned Facebook, and I always joke with her, sometimes, and every now and then stuff will look, because I'm looking at the ministry and other things come up, and then you'll see some people say how much they love their spouse, and I'll be like, that's okay. But unless you told them first. See, don't put up at how much you love me and I'm the best in the world on Facebook and never tell me. And I think we lost a few people in there. I got the most wonderful wife in the world. She supports me. She does all this. And you put it out there, and then they put the little balloons in Facebook, and then people comment, oh, that's so nice. But I never told her. What's up with that? Oh, this is a mature night tonight, I think.
It's real mature. Well, the thing about it is, you really have to learn how to love yourself. And I'm really being serious. This is male and female. You don't let one day trap you into putting yourself in a low position in life. Yeah. You don't let no one day stop you. This is number one day. It's a man-made celebrated day, but to show how much you love somebody. You should be loving somebody every day.
Sure.
There should be some love coming out of you every day, either through your kids or through your relatives or mother or father or through yourself. There should be some kind of love in you anyway. You should cherish the people in your life.
But then also, too, and remember I've taught this years ago, too. If that means something, you buy your own self some flowers. Send your own self some flowers at your job, at your house. To me, from me. Whatever. Buy yourself some candy.
Well, everybody don't want to do that.
Well, if you don't want to do that, but I'm just saying those, as she was saying,
but the truth
during that time.
There should be love running in your life every single day.
Yeah.
And the Valentine is not just for the love with the boyfriend and girlfriend, but it's appreciating the person that has loved you all year long and took the time out to be in your life all year long, not for no one day.
Yeah.
Not for no one day.
So you're saying maybe on that day, instead of people getting sad about it, if they want to just do something.
You can do something. You can do something for your auntie.
But I guess the question is kind of you seeing other people getting things, and if they with an individual.
Don't look at it. It's amazing everybody, they cannot get off Facebook.
Okay, okay, everything's not Facebook. You can just be out on your way to work, going, and then your coworker, their husband or their man delivered them flowers. Sometimes you just can't get away from it.
I know, but you know what? I don't care.
No, but she's looking for an answer.
I know, but what I'm saying is that if you get trapped in this thing.
Okay, how do you not get trapped in it?
I just told you.
What?
Love somebody.
No. I hear what you're saying, but they're talking about being the recipient of something. If they're seeing people getting things and whatever, somebody acknowledging whatever, and so if a single person, that can bother them. So how do I stop it from bothering me? So I got to do something else. That's why I said the thing maybe about buying yourself something, or if that ain't it, or do something else. Create something else. Because it's all about, because when people exchange gifts, whether it's Valentine's Day or whatever, it's to make them happy. Do something that's going to make you happy. Yeah. So you got to create, it's like you got to create some different memories. I tell people, especially when they lose loved ones and they get around a certain time, this is when Uncle Bubble died, and you get sad every October, every September. Instead of doing that, create a new memory. Instead of going to the grave, look at Uncle Bubba's grave in October, take a little trip. Create a new memory. So then when October comes, first thing not in your head is when Uncle Bubba died. Now you created a new memory. Boy, last October I was in Miami. You create new memories. That's how you do that.
So, just to go back to what you, statement Pastor Laura made about, loving people all year round. So, recently I've been hearing a lot, more so, not from females, but more so from men who say, I don't celebrate Valentine's Day because I love the person through the whole year, and it's just one day, what difference does it make? But for, me in particular, I love Valentine's Day. I feel like one more day to celebrate or do something special, is nothing wrong with that. But for women, maybe such as myself, who feel like it's important, is that a deal breaker in a relationship if someone says, I don't celebrate Valentine's Day, I don't celebrate, certain holidays, but those days may be important to you?
Yeah, it make a difference. Yeah. If it's important to you, then, I'm not going to script that from you. Yeah. I'm not going to allow him to say it don't mean nothing, because if you care about me, then you'll make it mean something for me.
Yeah.
So, but even if he said I don't celebrate these days, we're not talking about you. We're talking about me.
Yeah. Sure.
I like these days. So if you care about me, then you will celebrate the day because I like it. It ain't got nothing to do with you. Yeah. It could be a silly holiday to you, but who cares? I like it. And if you care about me, then you will satisfy me.
Sometimes you have some people don't celebrate things because they just never did it. You'd be surprised. You got some people don't celebrate Christmas because they grew up when their family never celebrating Christmas.
Or birthday.
Or certain things, yeah, for whatever reasons. Mm-hmm. So sometimes a person do that because sometimes holidays can be depressing to people because it can remind, I'm talking about adults. They don't like when Valentine's Day come around or holidays because their mind goes back to a childhood when Christmas came around and there was no tree. So they've just put it within their psyche like, oh, that ain't nothing, but it really is something. So a lot of times people say that it don't mean anything, but it usually does. They just won't acknowledge it because if they do, they have to deal with some pain sometimes. you know. But sometimes when a person gets introduced to it, like, hey, let's something, they'd be like, yeah, I guess there is something with this. I guess I do like this Christmas tree. You know. And then, like she said, with your spouse or something, you know, you can downplay something, but if it means something to them, that's all right. And then if you love making your spouse happy, to me it's like it's just another excuse for you to just do something. It's not about proving. See, you don't need a holiday or a birthday to prove your love to an individual. It's not about that. Because if that's the only time you show any love, you got a problem. There's a bigger problem here. See, in other words, if you didn't do something, it ain't like it's ruining it, if there was a reason. But you don't do that. It's just another reason or that hey, this is another opportunity to do something, that we can be happy. So that's how you take that. And there's nothing wrong with stuff means something. And this is sometimes what people get at. Well, it means something to you, it don't. If you want to love, if it means something to you, it's got to mean something to me. And what it means to me, maybe I don't get it, but because it means something to you, I'm going to participate in this.
Amen.
Does that even make sense? Amen. You know, it may not mean, but because it means something to you, I'm going to participate in it.
Amen.
Okay, so after a few months of dating, is it over, if I wanted to do a background check on the person I was dating? Not necessarily letting them know, but I just want to know about them. I mean, is that too soon, or is it doing too much or a bit overwhelming?
I mean, I don't see anything wrong, especially when the age now. If you meet somebody and you know their full name, to me, the common thing, see, let me see about this person. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Some of us my age and older wish they had some of this information at hand about 40 years ago. We just didn't. We just believed it, Joe. He seemed cool and didn't know he was a slickster.
Well, the thing about this is that, are you saying that you're going to let them know you did a background check?
No, you don't do that.
You're going to let them know
No,
you did a background check? Because of the internet dating now, everybody doing internet dating and stuff, so you don't really know the person.
No, if a lot of people are, I would assume, are on Facebook and different. See, there's information now that you and I didn't, and we didn't hear nothing about this stuff 35 years or 40 years ago. You can put folks' name in like now. You Google up me and your name, everything in the farm pops up. That's public knowledge, you know. So there's nothing wrong with that, with somebody. And most people probably do that anyway.
That's right.
Some people do it to be nosy.
That's right.
There ain't nothing wrong with that at all. You know. He say he the president of this company, then you put him up and you find out you see a grill in back of him. And ain't nothing wrong with the grill, but you know, he told you he's the president of the company and the grill back there, you know. Any more questions? All right, I guess that's it. We're gonna wrap it up. Valentine's is next Thursday. You got any plans?
Nope, I ain't got no plans. You got some plans?
Well, let's
don't go by what I said.
No.
No, don't try to erase it because I just said that.
Well, I guess I hadn't fully thought about it.
No, I was going to buy some socks. I was going to buy some socks.
Well,
you know I bought a pair of colorful socks, he won't wear them. He got
that is
all the
true.
colorful. That's true. I'm not telling the story. I like colorful styles and he would not wear them.
I may wear them a year later. Oh, it depends if I can find something that'll go with it. But I always tell you, I don't want to look like a clown.
I don't think you like clown. I think it's pretty cool when a guy have on cool socks.
Yeah, but I got to feel comfortable in wearing.
That was your gift, the socks.
Before we go, let me read something, and this is totally unscripted, and I keep this in my Bible, and I think this is a nice way to go off marriage and the family, with next week being Valentine's week. This is a card you got me for my birthday. I guess this is a 5. That would be what, 4 years ago?
05.
Oh, 05. Or 15. Oh, is that
15.
15. So
I don't
that's
know which one.
about
It has a 5.
about 3.5 years ago. And let me read, and hopefully I can get through it. And I keep it in my Bible. It's been there for the last few years. You said, the man I love is not the man everyone else sees. The man I love is the man that only I know. The man I love shares with me all that he holds inside, his hopes and dreams for the future, his memories and experiences of the past, all the things that make him who he is today. The man I love is the man who's most himself when we're together. He's the only man who truly knows and loves the real me. To the man I love is you, and only you, my partner, my friend, my everything. This has been Let's Talk About Marriage and the Family. God bless every heart. We'll see you next time.
Stop it.
Wasn't that an exciting word today? It was so great, and I'm so happy that I was here to hear the word. We're not out of word, but today we're out of time. On behalf of Better Life Faith Church, we would like to thank you for joining us for our live stream today. Before you leave our page, we would love for you to follow us, like us, and share us with a friend or family. If you like today's message, you're more than welcome to give us a call down below, and we'll get that message sent out to you. If you would like prayer today, you can call us, and one of our prayer warriors would love to come into agreement with you for your breakthrough. But as always, God bless you. When you learn better, you live better.